Sergey Lavrov is just speaking right now.
The G20 is essentially about the global south wanting to strengthen its role in global governance mechanisms so that they adequately reflect its share in global affairs, including in the economy, where BRICS has already surpassed the G7 countries in terms of their GDP. The declaration outlines the tasks of reforming the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. Frankly speaking, if we take an honest look on quotas and votes, the Americans wouldn't have had the blocking veto power that is preserved artificially. This summit will give a positive impetus to the effort to reform the IMF, the World Trade Organization. This is something the declaration stipulates directly. These efforts are hindered by the United States and its allies. In the same vein, an emphasis is placed on the need for the West to comply with its years-long promises that have been undelivered on, including on technology transfer. There is a very clear cut-out task, and the developing countries will not tolerate being put before the false choice, fighting poverty or investing into climate change. This is a false alternative, and naturally, the tasks of social and economic development take precedence. The declaration also stipulates the need to deliver on the promises to transfer technologies to the global south countries, not only exporting commodity materials and then receiving costs from added value. The West also has long ago promised giving $100 billion per year to prepare economies to counter the negative consequences of the climate change. Nothing of that has been done. The declaration also mentions all those tasks that need to be done in accordance with the long-standing promises in order to ensure a balance of interests in the global economy. It is a long way to go, but this summit has been a milestone from the point of view of giving a clear guiding star for us to follow. Another thing I would like to mention in particular is the active role of the Indian presidency that has genuinely consolidated the G20 members, probably for the first time in its history. I mean the G20 countries from the global south. Our BRICS partners, Brazil, India, China, South Africa, have been particularly active. And thanks to this consolidated position taken by the global south countries to uphold and protect their legitimate interests, have caused the West to be unable to Ukrainize the agenda to the detriment of the discussion of the tasks facing developing countries. We call it the Ukrainian paragraph. It is part of the consensus, but it's not about Ukraine. Yes, the Ukrainian crisis is mentioned, but only in the context of the need to settle all conflicts that exist in the world and settle those conflicts in accordance with all the principles of the United Nations Charter in their fullness and interconnectedness. As you know, as soon as we start talking about Ukraine, the West is unable to maintain an intelligent discussion. All it can do is demand that Russia stop its aggression and restore Ukraine's territorial integrity. But the United Nations Charter also mentioned, after the principle of sovereignty, the principle of equality and self-determination of the people. When we explained it to our colleagues, and we have been talking behind the scenes a lot, when in February 2014 a coup d'etat took place in Kiev and putschists came into power. The first thing they did was declare that they wanted to eliminate the Russian language as another state language. That was what triggered the inhabitants of Crimea and the Donbass. They were unhappy about it. They said they didn't want to live in such a country. This attitude to their own country is what took Kiev to undermine its own territorial integrity, because the UNGA declaration about the principles of international law says that it is necessary to respect the territorial integrity of countries whose governments respect the principle of self-determination of peoples and represent the entirety of the population of the country. In February 2014, the putschists can hardly be considered to be powers representing the interests of Crimeans and the inhabitants of the east of Ukraine. That goes without saying, no need to even prove it. So the Kiev regime destroyed the territorial integrity of its country with its own hand. Therefore, in full compliance with the UN Charter and the international law, the principle of self-determination of peoples came into play. This is something we have explained a lot, many times, and the correct understanding of what is going on is apparent amid the developing countries in the G20. I believe that some of our Western colleagues understand it too, but you know very well that we are placing their